I'm Tom Kramer, Marketing Product Specialist for AGCO Hay Tools.
And I'm Kyle Kitt, Marketing Product Manager for our hay tool lines in North America.
Thank you for joining us on our second part of our sorghum biomass baling series. Out here today, we are finishing cutting with the WR9770 and 9186 Twin Max conditioner head. We also have our 7624 Massey Ferguson tractor hooked to a 2270 XD. It's making a 3x4 bale, and these bales are a little high in moisture, but they're probably weighing close to 2,000 pounds.
I agree, Tom. In fact, we can see one right here in front of us. This is our finished product. We started with part one of actually doing the cutting and the conditioning of the crop with the WR Series windrower, showing the capacity and just the overall ability of that machine to handle this 18-foot tall, really gnarly sorghum crop for energy. And now you can see how we put it into such a nice tight package for the end user. Now they can take this well packaged, like Tom mentioned, roughly 2,000, possibly even more with the moisture that it has right now, over 2,000 pounds. That's going to mean less bales in the field, easier handling for them, less trips, less fuel used, and they're getting it at the end where they need it for their energy production. So now let's go ahead, Tom. Let's take a little look around the large square baler, as well as some of the bales that we're kicking out of here, and just seeing the overall performance of this machine. So now you can see, before we start looking more what the baler is doing out in the field here, this is the result of what we got from the WR Series. This was just 3 full days ago that we knocked down this crop right here and laid it into a nice windrow. And you can see, because of our low profile cutter bar getting a good cut to the ground, we've maximized the amount of material that is in this windrow. And also with our steel on steel rolls and the Twin Max conditioner, meaning 2 conditioner roll sets, we've been able to crimp this crop as much as possible. And you can tell it has already achieved very good dry down. You can see the material is very dried up. You can see debris just floating off of it. This is very well dry. The only key now is we're just flipping the windrow with a rake so we can make sure that the bottom gets to dry down as well before we start baling. But overall, the windrower has absolutely done its job in this big heavy crop to make sure that this is dry enough as well as ropey and fluffy enough for that baler to feed it in perfectly.
We're standing here in front of our 2270 XD large square baler. As I mentioned earlier, we're running it with a 7624 Massey tractor. The baler is set at about 400 pounds of density right now. We're using AGCO twine with a 600-pound strain. This is going to help keep those large bales together. And as I mentioned to you earlier, our bales are probably weighing upwards of 2,000 pounds. You may recognize that number because typically that's what our 4x4 baler makes in a normal 18% moisture crop. We're able to achieve these higher bale weights with a few things. The 2270 XD has a larger, heavier flywheel in combination of our Optiform bale chamber. These two features combined help us achieve bigger, heavier, denser bales. Kyle, would you please lift up the hood and we'll have a look at the inside of the baler.
Yeah, me too.
As you can see, we have the hood open on the 2270 XD right now. In front of me, right here, is the pickup. As crop flows up the pickup, the stuffer forks, as you can see right here, grab each flake of hay and bring it directly up into the chamber. At this point is when the plunger strikes that flake and makes essentially our flake for the formation of our bale. In conditions like this, the optimum amount of flakes per bale is right at 45. Here, I'm standing next to the knotter assembly on our 2270 XD. As you see here, this is the original double knotter system developed by Hesston in 1978. You can see grease banks with individual grease lines that run down to the knotter assemblies. What this does is keep the knotters lubricated to help keep you running out in the field even longer. Right now, I'm standing in front of the chamber of the baler. As you can see, it's a little bit longer than what you may be used to on the 2250 or even our normal 2270. This helps us mainly with bale formation. Also here, we can see the large hydraulic cylinders. These cylinders are also off of our 2290 4x4 baler. What these cylinders do is help keep a really tight, a real high amount of pressure on that bale as it comes back through the chamber. This is what gives us our XD, our extra density in our bales. Walking back a little bit further, you can see that this baler is equipped with the scale kit. What the scale kit does is whenever a bale is hanging on the chute, the scale takes a measurement and sends it directly to the C1000 console in the cab so you can tell how much your bales weigh as they fall out of the back of the baler. Right now, I'm standing next to a freshly made bale out of our 2270 XD. As I mentioned earlier, this bale weighs upwards of 2,000 pounds. You're probably thinking, how does that bale stay together if it weighs 2,000 pounds? There must be a lot of pressure inside of that bale. What gives us the ability is the original Hesston double knotter system. This system was developed by Hesston engineers in 1978, and we've been using it ever since. There is two knots essentially on each side of the bale, one here and one at the other end. These knots allow the bale to stay together even under tremendous weights and pressures.
All right, now I'm here with Ken Wagenbach. He's the operator of the 2270 XD today. Ken, you might want to just give us a little bit of information about what it is you're performing out here today.
We're demonstrating the equipment in this particular crop, which is a genetic line from Next Step, and trying to give them avenues on how to harvest it. They've looked at forage chopping, and now we're looking at swathing it and baling it as a means to densifying it for transportation and storage. We're in 28 to 30 wet tons an acre material that is dried down now to be roughly 11 tons of dry material per acre. The material has been crushed and crimped, and so this makes baling it a lot easier to do. What we know is that we can bale it wet and we can bale it dry. We're trying to get, for long-term storage, we're trying to get under 20-21%. One of the few things that we've learned doing this is that we shoot for a 1,500 to 2,000 pound bale that's going to have 40 to 45 flakes. That gets us around 12.5 to 13 pounds per cubic foot of density, of dry density, which allows us to have adequate truckload weights for transportation.
Perfect. That's a very good answer.
So now that we actually have, a fair amount of bales starting to get out in the field, just kind of hitting a stopping point here. What would you say so far you've noticed as far as on this baler is some key settings or even just overall features of the machine that's allowing you to get the performance with these packages that we see?
With the 2270 and the Optiform chamber, the 16-inch longer bale chamber, we can handle I won't say adverse, but differing windrows with still keeping a consistent bale shape and size. This baler can put away a lot of tonnage, and you can either do it as bale count or by weight. It doesn't make any difference how you do it, but it does it consistently.
Very good point. One benefit on getting the weight in the baler rather than quantity of bales.
It's all about transportation, storage, and handling. So you want to densify the bale to minimize the number of handlings. You're really kind of targeting at that 12.5 pounds per cubic foot to get enough bales on to make maximize truckload weights.
Very good point. Now, Ken, this isn't your first go around with this. You've done a fair amount of biomass studies now, whether it's with certain companies, universities, etc. And I know a lot of those in the past we've seen a lot of success for the AGCO baler. Maybe could you give a reason why AGCO is being chosen as a preferred biomass baler?
We're finding that we're getting bale lives of 75,000 to 80,000 in this environment of high density, high tensils, and a knotter strength. It's just our operating costs are so much lower with this piece of equipment. Our uptime is so much higher than the competitors.
Very good. So a lot of bottom line benefits.
Bottom line benefits.
Okay, that's great to hear. All right, well, thanks, Ken. I do appreciate it.
No problem.